All right, welcome everybody to our Ask the Building Expert webinar series. And just to let you know, the other guy is Martin Pea. He's kind of the back office, front office. I don't know, he does a lot of stuff. He makes sure that our program runs, and he's been doing a good job all these years. He keeps asking for a raise, but since we don't make any money doing this, it's hard to, I'll buy him lunch, whatever. So today is actually National Corned Beef Hash Day and No Excuses Day. So I don't know if you like corned beef hash, but if you make excuses, don't make it today, save it for tomorrow. Okay. Now, we're going to cover some information, and some of it may be technical in nature, but that's just kind of how it is. If you have any questions, you can use the chat or Q&A feature on our Zoom platform. If you're on Zoom, if you're on Facebook, you can post your comments or questions on Facebook, and hopefully we'll be able to take a look at it. Why do we actually do these webinars? Well, we do these webinars to help building owners, property managers, construction attorneys, condo unit owners, office building owners, anybody who's in the industry and who can benefit from the information, even like construction loan lenders and businesses like that. We're here to help everybody, as many people as we can, because the way I think, the more people know about the same information that I know, the better. It's easier for me that I don't have to keep explaining over and over. That's the reason why we do these webinars. And also, I'm writing a bunch of books on the same topics, and that's, for people to understand and get the information. Skip to this here. Oh, also the webinar is presented by Construction Management Inspection LLC, which is a building inspection and construction management company located in Honolulu, Hawaii. We service the island of Oahu and all the neighbor islands and parts of the West Coast, and that's a company that I own. And that's probably one of the few commercials we're going to do. But let's talk about special inspections, IBC Chapter 17. Now, you may ask, what the heck is IBC? IBC stands for International Building Code. And if you're tuning in from different parts of the US and you're not located in Hawaii, this chapter is applicable because throughout the nation, every state uses the International Building Code in some form. If you're tuning in from a different country, then you have a different code, but the special inspections are kind of similar in your country. You may have it or not. It may not be as strict. It may be stricter. It all depends. You're going to have to do your own research, but basically special inspections are part of the International Building Code Chapter 17. So that's required. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you things that DPP is too busy to let you know. So you may get some inside information on inspections. Now, you may ask, well, what's the difference between special inspection and a regular inspection? Well, there's many different types of inspections. There's construction inspection, there's lender's inspections. Special inspection is a little different, and as we go through, I'll be able to let you know how different it is. So why special inspections? How this whole thing came up is the building department, DPP, historically is too busy. They don't have enough inspectors to go out and inspect everything under construction. So they came up with this idea where instead of the local building inspector, the municipal inspector inspecting property under construction, buildings under construction, the format is made so that they're able to use an architect or engineer, third party, private, that doesn't work for the city, okay, and the city will accept the inspections that these third party architects and engineers do, okay, and that makes it a lot easier for the building department. Now they got many workers rather than a few, okay. But the big question is, why special inspections? Well, the answer is because if you don't have any oversight, quality control, quality assurance, and the contractor is just building stuff any which way, hopefully they're following the plans and specs, but what if they're not? So that's why the need for a special inspection. You have like a gatekeeper inspector that's looking over the shoulder of the contractor, looking at finished product and making a determination whether it passes or not. Okay, so that's the reason why we don't want building failures, because there's no lack of inspections or project oversight. So I already told you about the history, terminology and definitions. I'm going to get to that. And then requirements. I mentioned that it's a required section by under the building code. So it's not like, well, it's an option, you can do it or not. It's not an option, it's required. In many cases, if there's no special inspection form signed off by the architect or engineer on construction, the building permit will not get signed off and it'll be left incomplete. So that's how strict it is. Okay. Now, whose duty is it to do the inspection? So let's talk about duties of responsible parties. And if you can see the image here, this is taken in a shopping center under construction in Carmel, California. I was on vacation, but because it's all in my nature all the time, everywhere I go, I try to look around and take pictures. And the workers thought it was like an inspector from the city, but then I told them, I don't think an inspector from the city would be wearing shorts and a t-shirt that says San Francisco on it. And then they laughed. I told them I'm from Hawaii. If the shopping center was built in Hawaii, yeah, I would be there taking a look. So let's talk about responsible parties. The owner would be responsible for inspections, the architect and the contractor. Now, how many owners that go out and do their own inspection? Not many. And an owner is not certified to do a special inspection. An architect, could be, a contractor could be, but most times it's a conflict of interest to have the contractor inspecting their own work. Now, the building official, which is DPP inspector, and if you're from other states in the United States, your building official is normally called inspector, or using the letters AHJ. What does that stand for? The authority having jurisdiction. The authority having jurisdiction is basically the municipal inspector. I don't know who came up with that those words, but they wanted to make it sound really official and all that. Also, the role of the design professional. Whose responsibility is it to check out the construction? Well, whoever the architect or engineer is of record, and of record means that it's the project architect or engineers. Okay, whoever drew the plans to build this building or this structure is responsible for the inspection. they might not be responsible for the special inspection, although most times it makes sense to use the same architect or engineer because they're there already at the property doing their quality control inspection, or just kind of look-see, making sure everything's following the plans and specifications. Let's talk about inspector qualifications. Now, who would be qualified? You have to actually take tests and be certified to be a special inspector. Now, in some areas, if you're a licensed architect or engineer, all you need to do is submit your resume to the building department, and they would review it and say, okay, you're qualified, and they'll put your name on the list. So DPP has a list of qualified inspectors, and they could be architects, engineers, it could be consultants. So, and there's different ways to obtain certification. One way is to prove that you're a licensed architect or engineer. Another way is to submit information that you took CE courses, or you took a course on, let's say, special inspection for concrete by the American Concrete Institute. Okay, so if you can provide that, that means you're certified by concrete organization, and then DPP will accept that. Okay, so it's one of that kind of process that you have to go through. So the inspector qualifications are, it's not that hard, and not many people want to be a special inspector. Now, your project design consultants, like I mentioned before, your project architect, your project engineers, they're consultants, design consultants, they would be qualified. There's also third-party inspectors, such as, like, if I go myself and I get certified, then I'm a third party. I don't work for that development project. I'm not the project architect or engineer. I don't work for DPP. I'm an independent third-party inspector. Okay, so that's another qualification. And then you don't even have to be a person to be an inspector that's qualified. You could be a testing agency, such as if there's pieces of concrete that need to be tested, they send it to a laboratory that the testing agency owns or they network with, and the testing agency is qualified to look at the sample and render an opinion. Oh, there's, too much aggregate in the concrete, and that's why there was a failure, of that beam or something like that. Okay, so project design consultants, third-party inspectors, testing agencies, that's the inspector qualifications. Now, let's get to the nitty-gritty. Building components required to be inspected. And you might say, well, what could they be? Well, they could be many different components, and it's not only one or two things. Now, as you can see in the image, this is reinforcing steel, and they're placing the steel, tying it together, forming it. And this is for concrete columns. And I took this picture in Monterey, California, where they're building, I'm not sure what they were building. It was walking distance to the Monterey Aquarium. I remember that. But here's the list of building components that are required to be inspected. And this is from the Honolulu DPP, but these components also apply to national standards under the International Building Code. Concrete, bolts installed in concrete, special moment resisting concrete frame, reinforcing steel, and pre-stressed steel tendons, structural welding, high strength bolting. Okay, structural welding and high strength bolting is when you build a building out of steel, and you have to weld certain sections together, and you have to bolt certain sections together. That's required. structural masonry, which is CMU walls, reinforced gypsum concrete, insulating concrete fill, spray applied fireproofing. And what is that? So let's say that the contractor is constructing a steel frame building. When steel gets to be heated, really hot temperature, it can start melting, okay, and losing rigidity. Okay, so you have to spray it with fireproof coating over it, and that's required to be inspected. Piling drilled piers and caissons, what that is when you're drilling into the ground for hotels or big office buildings, that's to be inspected also. Shotcrete, special grading, excavation and filling, fire protection system, special cases, and it's up to the building department to determine what those cases are. Complete load path and uplift ties. You may ask, well, what the heck is that? Basically, that's hurricane ties, hurricane straps, anchor bolts to secure your foundation so that when there's a hurricane, the building doesn't fall down. Also, if there's an earthquake, and then also termite protection, that's required too. So as you can see, there's about 18 items that need to be specially inspected under the special inspection section of the building code. Now let's go further and let's look at some building components, groundwork and foundation. So if you're looking at passing by a job site and they're digging in the ground, excavating, or they're laying the foundation, concrete foundation, okay, that has to be inspected. Okay? And these are all special inspections. They're not really your normal inspection, although it could be combined together with a general inspection. The superstructure, all these big high-rise buildings in Kaka'ako, and if you go to cities like Miami, New York, LA, San Francisco, Chicago, they're all building these high-rise buildings. Every single one of them need to be inspected, okay? Your building envelope, which is the outside of your building. A lot of buildings now have a design where it's all windows, it's all glass. That has to be inspected. Fire protection, okay, and a lot more. So as you can see in the image, I guess this is either office building or restaurant, and it's all steel frame. That has to be inspected also before they hang the drywall. So basically, in a nutshell, that's what special inspections are. Now, I'm going to talk about some case studies here. And if you see the image on the left, that's a railing of a parking deck. And this is not really a special inspection type photo, but you can see that there's a anchor, and then it's like a sleeve, and then the railing post goes into that sleeve, and it's all corroded. And what happened was it got so corroded that the concrete had chipped away, and that's called concrete spalling. Okay. Now, if this was built brand new, and this is the reason why I'm showing this to you, if it was built brand new, the special inspector needs to verify how the concrete is placed. And before that they place the concrete, what is the mix of the concrete? What is the water to cement ratio? Did they put enough water, or did they put too much or too little? Now, what about the cement? Now there's aggregate mixed in too. Now, what is the mix with the cement, aggregate to water? If the mix is not as specified, you could have prematurely cracking of the concrete and other problems associated with not following the specifications. Okay, and then the other photo is of a Waikiki hotel where they had concrete spalling so bad that sections of the walkways were giving in. And so if you look, I took this photo of the ceiling. Okay, but it's actually the bottom of the walkway on the floor above. And as you can see, there's rebar there and concrete missing. So there's like huge holes in the walkway. And special inspections apply to this when you're pouring, mixing the concrete and all that. You got to use the correct formula. It's like a recipe, like if you're cooking a meal, you want to stick to the recipe. Now, here's some case studies. In 2018, and you probably remember this, in Miami, there was this bridge failure where the whole bridge collapsed and it was still under construction. They weren't even completed yet and it just collapsed. Now, what is the determination? Well, there was some structural issues, but there could be some special inspection issues where the special inspector didn't quite do a good job and he missed some things, and that's why it was a contributing factor to the failure. Okay, so it could be a combination not only of a bad inspection, but maybe bad design or poor design. Okay, let's go to the next one. Hard Rock Hotel collapse in 2019. This could have been cause of improper inspection, improper loading. The contractor didn't follow the right protocol as far as shoring up things. So sometimes when you have a new floor that's being built and the concrete isn't cured yet, and you don't shore it, you don't support it, and now you want to pour concrete on the next floor, it could lead to problems because the concrete hasn't fully cured yet, and now you have too much load and you can't, the weight can't handle. In 2020, several years ago, there was a Houston high-rise stairway failure. And, the building's new, and how could it fail? Well, there was a design issue and a loading issue too. And then last year, 2021, the Florida building collapse, everybody heard about that. So you might ask, well, wait a minute, that building was built in the 70s, right? Yeah. Okay, so what's the relationship with special inspection, that happened in the 70s when the building was brand new to 2021 at the time of the collapse? Well, we don't know for sure because this whole collapse is still under investigation. So they're pointing it to, and I've done 2 webinars. I was interviewed on the news to comment about it. And my initial comment was the reason why the building collapsed is due to concrete spalling, failed waterproofing, and paint. And I just made those statements. And at the end of the investigation, that's going to be one of the contributing factors. But the other factor could be that when the building was built, was the concrete mix correct? Was the rebar placement correct? Was the size of the rebar correct? Okay, and that all has to go back to the special inspection. Who did the inspections? Now, if they didn't do it properly, it could be a contributing factor to the failure. So I think in the end, when it's determined that we have the investigation completed as to what the cause of the failure was, the collapse, I think it's going to be a combination of all these things, right? Special inspection, concrete spalling, lack of maintenance, and all that. This is one of the most best example that I can think of a condo board not maintaining their building. When you need $15.5 million to fix your building, you're far off the mark. You're like years behind schedule to fix. Because even by today's standards, if your building needs $2 million to fix stuff, you know, that's kind of a lot already. But you just look at the components that need to be fixed, right? By by today's standards and what we see today in the market today, as far as older condos, you see concrete spalling, roofing, cast iron drain piping that are failing, windows, elevators. So, there's a number of capital improvement projects that need to be done. And what happens is the boards say we don't have any money to do it, and they just keep kicking the can down the road. Okay. So there is money. They just got to figure out how to get it. Okay. And when I say there is money, the building association may not have money, but if they go out and get a loan, construction loan, the lenders have money to loan. Okay. So there's ways. A lot of buildings are underfunded. They don't have enough reserves, and that's where either the loan comes in or a special assessment. Sorry to say that's what's happening, now, because the buildings all need to be fixed and the associations are underfunded. They don't have enough money in their reserve accounts to pay for everything. And you can't keep kicking the can down the road, because this Surfside, Florida building did that. They did exactly that. Kicked the can down the road, and look what happened. Close to 100 people died, which is not good. So what's the conclusion from the building expert? The conclusion is that make sure you have your inspections done. Make sure you talk to the contractor and he has the inspector lined up to do the inspection. Because you don't want DPP, the building department, to say, okay, I'm ready to sign off on your building permit that your job's completed. Where's your special inspection form signed off by the special inspector? And if you don't have the form, or if you never hired the inspector, good luck. And I like this photo because I'm actually on a rig 40 stories high. And you can see how high I am. And that's part of what I do. That's part of my job, because there's no way to inspect from the ground. From the ground, if you have to inspect even with binoculars, balcony on the penthouse, 4001, the 40th floor, you can't see hardly anything, even with binoculars. Well, you could use a drone maybe, but the drone is not as good as a human. So I have to personally fly up on the rig and observe the concrete repair, concrete spalling repair, railing repair, painting, waterproofing, and all that. So it's fun. And what do we have here? What you missed. If you missed previous webinars, I've given webinars on almost every single subject: electrical, plumbing, cast iron, piping, roofing, hurricane ties, lot grade drainage, termites. I mean, I've given probably over 50 webinars on construction and building issues. So you go to our website, askbuildingexpert.now.site, and you can watch any of these webinars on demand. You do not need, it's free. You don't need a Netflix account or anything like that. If you're going to watch more than one, because they're about an hour long, I'd say make yourself comfortable, make some popcorn, and, get a cool beverage and things like that. Okay, what's coming up? So we have webinars coming up next month and the following month. And the subject is about construction Problems in the construction industry. Hold on a second. Let me look at my notes here. Um, Construction inspections, which are a little different from special inspection. Problems in the construction industry today. Defective building materials. Okay? I'm going to be giving separate webinars on those, and then that'll take us to through November. And in December, if you guys are nice, you're going to be invited to our holiday party, and it's going to be on Zoom. And here's a tip for you. If you want to register, you go to our website and you can register, and you have a place. Okay? It's limited to 50 people. And last year, Martin and I gave away over $1,000 worth of gift cards and prizes and all that. It's not a webinar. It's just a party that we do to have fun and to show appreciation to all the people who attended our previous webinars. Okay, if you're from Hawaii, you're invited. If you're from anywhere in the United States, you're invited. If you're from anywhere in the world, you're invited. Except some of the gift cards we give, you may not be able to use, so we can substitute it for cash or Amazon gift card or something like that. Okay, if you're not from anywhere in the world, you're not invited, because we're not inviting people from Mars or the moon or anything like that. Okay, so what else do we have? You got questions, I got answers. Lance Luke, phone number 808-422-2132 if you want to call. You want to email lanceluke@hawaiibuildingexpert.com is our email. And then also you visit our website, askbuildingexpert.now.site. Now our website has all our webinars. It has takeaways. It has publications. It has books you can get for free that I wrote. I just finished writing a book, How Safe Is Your Building? You can get that free. I have another edition of that. So the one that's available is the latest version, but we'll put up the latest version soon. And so what else do we have? We got all kinds of, we have also websites on this website, specific websites on concrete spalling repair, cast iron drain piping, expert witness, and all that. So there's a trove of information, and it's all free. So take advantage of it. All right, so I'm gonna wake Martin up and see if there's any questions from the audience at this time. So Martin, are you around?
Yes, sir. Lance, can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Oh yeah, we've had a few questions come in here, so let me share them with you. First one was says, thank you for your presentation. So you have a grateful viewer here. I was not aware of these types of inspections before. As a property manager, how do I know what special inspections are required for a construction project? Good question.
Okay, so if you might not know, if you're working on a construction project and you never bothered to get a building permit. Okay, so you wouldn't know. But if you tell me what kind of project you're doing, I can easily tell you. So let's say you follow the proper procedure and you do get a building permit. The building department is going to tell you, okay, by a form called the special inspection form, and they'll check off what things need to be inspected. Your architect or engineer may do that automatically, but if they don't, the building department will let you know. That's how you're going to know. And the contractor has a copy of that form too, so they're going to know also. So it's not like they can play dumb at the end and go, oh, I didn't know that we needed to inspect the hurricane ties. Well, hello, it's right on the form. And if you don't know, look it up in the building code. It's right there. Okay, so the official name for the form is called Building Code Requirements for Special Inspections. Okay, that's the name of the form. And it's 2 pages. And there's you got to write down who's the inspector, the name, license number, and all that good stuff. So that's how you can tell. Now, if somehow you still don't know, then contact me and I can fill you in. If you tell me what kind of work you're doing and what it entails, I can basically tell you what components need to be inspected. So appreciate the question.
Very good, Lance. Thank you. The next question we have here is, are these inspections only for brand new buildings like the high-rise buildings in Kaka'ako? Or do they also apply to repair and renovation projects in existing buildings? That's a good question.
Okay, so if you can see behind me, I have a image of a building under construction. It's wood frame, brand new. And yes, this needs to have a special inspection. But let's say this is a concrete building already built, an office building or condo, okay? And you have concrete spalling that needs to be fixed. So in this case, you have an existing building that still needs to have the special inspection done because they need to inspect the reinforcing steel, the rebar placement and the size of the steel. And they also need to inspect the concrete too. So the answer is yes. It not only applies to brand new buildings, it applies to existing buildings that are being renovated. And the renovation of the existing buildings is still a construction project, right? So it still falls under the building code. So you just got to be aware of what components need to be inspected, and depends on what kind of work is being done. So let's say that you have a wood frame building that had so much termite damage and it kind of collapsed and you have to rebuild it. Well, the contractor is going to rebuild it, but he still has to conform to the provisions of the building code with respect to hurricane ties and continuous load paths. So this is another example of you have an existing building that still needs to be specially inspected.
Thank you for that, Lance. This next one might be a little related to what you just mentioned. This viewer is asking, our buildings are going to be doing some wood repair and painting in Mililani. Do we need any of these types of inspections you talked about?
The answer is it depends. If all you're doing is replacing siding and trim, you're taking a rotted or termite-eaten siding or trim and you're putting back new wood and painting it, no, you don't need to have the special inspection done. But let's say you remove the siding and all of a sudden you're like, wow, the interior stud walls are all eaten up by termites. Now we got to replace all that and it becomes structural. Then it may trigger the requirement for the special inspection, anchor bolts, hurricane ties, all that kind of good stuff. Okay, so also like when they install the brand new siding and trim, hopefully they're going to put before that they're going to put weather protection like Tyvek, a vapor barrier, and they're going to seal and caulk all the open joints, because that's like your building envelope and you have to keep it all sealed. You don't want any water or moisture to get in. So that's the whole idea. So in most cases, when they're doing minor wood repair, no, it doesn't there's no requirement. But then a lot of times, condo associations don't even get building permits for doing wood repair, painting and all that. So when they're not getting a building permit because maybe one's not needed, then the special inspection criteria, really doesn't apply. So we got any other questions?
Yes, Lance. Sorry, I had my mic off. Yeah, we have a couple more questions, and this one looks like it's coming from a Waikiki viewer. The question is, our building in Waikiki will be starting a spalling and painting project soon. How do we know if the contractor will be getting the required inspections? I'm sorry. And is the contractor allowed to do their own inspection?
Excuse me, can you repeat that again?
Sure can. The question is, our building in Waikiki will be starting a spalling and painting project soon. How do we know if the contractor will be getting the required inspections? Is the contractor allowed to do their own inspections?
Okay, the contractor is allowed to do their own inspections, and they should do their own inspections, but the contractor's inspection doesn't qualify for purposes of a special inspection because they're not the certified person. It has to be a licensed architect or engineer or third-party inspector. Okay, it's a conflict if the contractor does their own inspections, because how do they know? They can be lazy and not do a good job and be the inspector and sign off. Okay, so that's not for the contractor to do the inspection. The other thing is that by virtue of getting the building permit and the requirements from DPP dictating what needs to be inspected, that's how you're going to know. But when you talk to the contractor, hopefully if it's a big project, you have a hired construction manager. That person will be the one to monitor the contractor and make sure the inspections are done. The contractor should be calling the inspector and say, hey, can you come by? And a lot of times before the project starts, I have a meeting with the contractor and the special inspector, and I ask, well, how many times do you need to come to the project to do your inspections? And that's how we can gauge the frequency. The other thing is, and most of the projects that I work on, the structure engineer or architect is the special inspector. So a lot of times I call the engineer and say, hey, when you come to take a look, also make a note that you're doing the special inspection also. And then sometimes and I'm there as a construction manager more than the project engineer, okay, or architect. So if I encounter a situation, let's say structure in nature, they jackhammer a beam or column, and all of a sudden, the whole thing starts falling apart, and we didn't know that it was that bad. In some cases, I would need to call the engineer to make a special or separate inspection, which is not on his list, and say, hey, I need you to come down as soon as you can. There's a situation here where I need your opinion on. Maybe he has to draw some other plan or come up with a separate fix for a certain condition. And, that is going to be done in a normal course of business. And the contractor knows that when they encounter a problem, they have to let me know right away. They cannot just cover it up. So they have to leave it open until I can inspect it for myself and let them know how to fix it. If it's beyond what I can recommend and I need to hire or call the architect or engineer, then that's what I'll do. So the contractor has to move on. They have to stop that area, move on until we can, get the problem resolved. And a lot of times it gets resolved fairly fast. So just be aware that it needs to be done. And you know, if you're a property manager or board member, you may just ask the question, hey, is anyone doing the special inspections? You know, just to make sure. Um, it's no harm to do that.
Thank you, Lance. It's very good. I have another question here, and it's an interesting one. And their comment is interesting case studies that you talked about. Is it your opinion that the building failures were due to incomplete special inspections or other contributing factors as well? And this visitor states, I am a construction attorney.
Okay, so we have a construction attorney that's watching this webinar. That's good. So in answer to the question, I would say the failures are due to inadequate or improper special inspections as one of the contributing causes of failure. That's only one, okay? In a construction defect litigation situation or a case, and I'm also an expert witness on construction defect litigation cases, and there's three criterias to determine a failure of a building or building component. There's three basic criteria that we look at. One is it a design error? Only a design situation, okay? Could the failure be due to a design problem? Maybe the architect or engineer didn't design something correctly. The second item is, could it be a workmanship issue? Now, maybe the contractor was rushed, or they didn't put enough concrete here, they didn't put enough screws there, or any factor like that. And then the third item is, could the cause be due to a failure of the actual building material? Okay, so is it a design issue? Is a failure due to a workmanship issue? Is a failure due to a failure of the building material? And there have been cases where it was a building material failure. It was paint that started peeling off, you know, within 1 year. Okay, so the paint wasn't that good, so the paint failed. Or a workmanship issue, the door fell off. Well, they didn't install it correctly. And then a design issue, well, how come this pipe is right in the way of a walkway? You know, who designed this? Now, it could be 1, 2, or 3. It could be a combination of 2 of those items. It could be a combination of all 3. Okay, but I can safely tell you that the majority of construction cases that I worked on, the number one causation of the defect was due to poor workmanship, bad workmanship. And that's a human factor there. Okay, so the contributing factors to causes of failure could be the special inspections, improper or no inspections, or they were too lazy. It could be due to a design. It could be due to workmanship issues. The contractor just didn't do it right. It could be a building material failure. And let me throw this out. Number 4, it could be lack of maintenance, repair and maintenance. Okay, so for example, you have a building that's built in the 60s or 70s, okay, and your piping, your cast iron drain piping, it just keeps leaking and causing sewage to go, you know, all over the unit and down the side. And now, you know, one unit that had a pipe break, now you got 10 units affected or 20 units affected by the leak. Okay, now this is due to lack of repair and maintenance. So it could have been fixed, like concrete spalling. You have a Florida building collapse, right? That that's lack of repair and maintenance. They should have fixed their building. So there's all these factors into determining, what the problem is. Now, part of what I do as an expert witness is not only in construction defect litigation cases, I also work on premises liability cases, which are personal injury. Somebody slips and falls because the stairs was not constructed properly, or the railing was loose, or there was concrete spalling and the railing gave way. Situations like that, or the person was walking and they slipped because it was slippery. Now, these aren't really due to the special inspection issue. It's more due to repair and maintenance, or in the case of the steps not being built correctly, it was due to a bad inspection and the contractor didn't follow the plans, or maybe the plans showed that exact condition, the contractor built it like that, but it's still wrong, right? So we go back to the building code. If that condition did not meet the building code or does not meet the building code, then it's a problem. Okay? It's not like we're just saying this is our opinion that it's not safe. We reference the building code and we say, because it wasn't built according to code, that makes it not safe and that makes it a problem. Okay, so that's how these cases are really determined when I have to do my inspection and present my opinion to help, resolve it and settle the case. So basically, that's it. Martin, any other questions come up on Zoom or Facebook?
No, Lance, no other new ones. You did a
Okay.
good job as usual.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for attending. I know this is a little bit kind of technical. It's like not really our normal talking about roofs and leaking plumbing pipes and electrical, but these are things you have to know, especially if you own a condo, you're a board member or your property manager or even a construction lender. These are good things to know, and we're happy to help give you the information. And on behalf of Martin and myself, we thank you again for participating in our webinar, and please watch the next one, tune into the next one, and watch the ones that you missed that we have on demand. We continue to provide information to guide you, follow the right way of doing things. And any questions that may come up, please let us know. We're happy to help. And by the way, there's a Christine here that bought me a good lunch yesterday. I had Maguro sashimi. She even sprang for like a triple order. So I got my fill. So thank you very much. And thanks for attending. And we'll see you next time. Aloha.
Good job, Lance.